The acquisition of ArtCo started with Glen's business relationship with the founder and owner. In a time of crisis, Glen was willing to do what was right and extend a helping hand to his competitor. This would eventually lead to the sale of ArtCo, even with a better price, being offered by another buyer. The day of closing of this acquisition also had a moment that Taylor leaders would not soon forget.
We had a competitor, a very good competitor out west. And we read in the paper that a dam had busted out there and the water had gone through, and when we looked, it was the town that our competitor, Rexburg, Idaho. And that we got information that had gone through their shop floor, their inventory, and everything. It actually put them out of business and would keep them out of business for quite some time. I made a phone call at that time to the father, who was the controlling interest. He had 3 sons that were also in the business, and said that if he had orders as they came in, he wanted to forward the orders to us. We would print the product and we would get it out. We would do it we would not make money off of him. We would charge him what our costs were, and we wouldn't keep the names and take away his customers, but we would just do that. And of course, if they were a little bit concerned, but I had developed a relationship, and he called and he says, you're really going to do this? I said, we're really going to do this. Well, I'm really trusting you. And I said, I know you are, and that's why you can count on us to do it.
It was a very good company, well respected. We liked them. As a competitor. They were a quality competitor.
It was a big acquisition. They were the first ones in the marketplace with direct-to-the-consumer brides catalog, so Rexcraft.
ArtCo was actually owned and run by a patriarch, the father, Arthur, who was no longer active in the business, but his 2 sons, Arthur and Randall, were. And he had more kids, but they were the 2 active shareholder officers.
He brought them in to take over the company. And they had not really ever worked much at the company. They went off and got their MBAs from an Ivy League school, and they came back and they started applying all the things that they learned from their MBA.
And you start seeing things they're doing, not from what they're telling you, but what they're doing with their marketing. And you're going, this doesn't make sense. And and you start to see the signs, and pretty soon you get a phone call and say, well, would you guys be interested in buying the company? Our dad's upset. I'm very sure you've heard the story. And that call came to me from one of the brothers. I can't remember which one. I think it was Art, because he was the CEO. But even on that deal, the relationship that Glen had with the father was the cement of that deal. So going way back to years before that, because he trusted Glen.
And I said I would be interested in purchasing it, gave him my price. He came back, he said, well, I have a higher offer from a New York company. But he says, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm taking your offer because of what you did previously and take care of us. And he said that our community, you probably know this, is pretty much Mormon. And so that's an important part of our work, important part of our religion, and I hope that you would respect that. And I say, I don't have any problems with that. Matter of fact, I assume they're all good workers.
Glen flew out there with his son, Jeff, and he was, 15 years old, 14 years old at the time. They flew out there for the actual closing. Bill Kazetsa was the CFO at the time, and I suppose Jackson might have gone, assume was there as well. And they were all sitting around a big table, and they had all the documents for the acquisition, and a lot of signatures had to be done. So documents were being passed around to each of the people for signing.
Probably took a half hour to route all these documents around, get everybody's John Hancock on them. the last to sign was Arthur Sr. And he grabs the pen, and just before he does it, he looks at Jeff, who's sitting next to his dad. And kid's 12 years old, and he looks at him and he says, "I hope you never do to your father what my sons have done to me." And he signed it. And it was a tough moment for a lot of people looking at their shoe shines.
You know, what he spent his whole life building, the sons lost it all that fast. So, importance of bringing in, if you bring in family, you got to be very careful. Yeah, it's one of the hardest things you can do is the transition between generations. They need to be involved and working there.
Usually these business meetings are all business and they're not hard issues. That was a hard issue.